is the Two Marketeers podcast, where hosts and marketing experts Sean Patrick and Lindsay seek to uncover what makes brands so powerful in how they impact modern society and culture.
Two Marketeers. They've got a podcast. The Two Marketeers podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, marketeer.
Hello, marketeer, and hello, marketeers. How are you today?
I'm Sean Patrick. That's Lindsay Waugh, and we are the Two Marketeers.
Hey.
Still at it. Season 5.
90 episodes later. If you haven't followed along, go catch up quickly on those 90 episodes.
Or just use AI. I'm sure AI can help you with that.
Yeah, summarize what these people talked about for 4 years straight. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm great. In the holiday spirit. Holidays.
I think I'm feeling it for the first time today. I think I have a party to go to tonight, and I don't get to go to very many holiday parties because, I'm a guy working alone. I'm going to be meeting my client who I've worked for and with for I gotta think 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
On a lot of projects, and we have never met in person.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's 5 years before you didn't meet people in person. It's 5 years pre-pandemic.
That was me, right? I think I was 5 years ahead. I think
you're like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to meet you for 8 years.
It just worked so efficiently.
So
and
now you're going to a client Christmas party tonight for clients you've never met in person. Wow.
Yeah.
So what are you going to wear? Does it feel
that
weird?
was the thing. It was last night, I was like, okay, it says cocktail attire. And so I said to Simone, I'm going to try a few things on, and you tell me. And then you go into the closet and nothing fits. And it's been a while, and put some stuff on. And I just kept saying, I feel like a giant sausage. But
a Christmas sausage, though.
I always say that. She goes, what do you mean when you say you look like a sausage? I said, I just feel like I'm full of meat, ready to burst. My thin skin is ready to pop. It's a lot of
you're a
and that's
well, coming from someone who has seen you in person for 8 years, I've never once said, hey, that guy looks like a sausage. So go into your night thinking other people don't think you're a sausage, and you just enjoy your evening.
Perfect. Okay, that was fun. We're all warmed up. So we're talking about this apparent creative crisis, or at least that's what we were feeling, to which the thing we ask ourselves every episode this season will be, is there a creativity crisis? And I mean, all it is,
are we not?
Are we in crisis? But when we do that, it's the opportunity to question what we feel is a threat and turn it into an opportunity.
That's right. In fact, someone posted on our last episode that we posted and shared on LinkedIn that they were very excited to see a positive spin on the idea of creativity crisis. So here we are, just being a little ball of joy.
And it wasn't Lindsay's mom. It was someone we don't even know. We got a message, the guy. It was very nice.
Yeah, I did message him.
Oh, nice. Anyway,
shout out to you.
Back to, are we in a creativity crisis? Well, let's start with the threat and kind of see, what is it that is kind of creating this sense of crisis around what's happening to creativity. And you said in the last episode, and it's really a question of time. The biggest problem is time. And the thing I find interesting is we act like time is not a tangible absolute factor, right? Time's always let's just get it done. And it actually is the one thing about our business, even more so than money, that is factual, right? There's this one guy's, I think his name's Zig Ziglar, and it's it's not lack of time, it's lack of direction, because we all have 24-hour days. And I love that. I kind of butchered it, but it's that basic thing, is to say, when we lose perspective, we lose the reality of the one thing I believe to be real in this world is time, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well, and
In
people just feel like they're out of control with regards to time. Are you? Like, do you have the power to take time back, and do you have the power to control it? I think
Yes.
so. I think so.
But you're right. It's a question for people to ask themselves, right?
Yeah.
This episode, I want to talk about, some of the things that are problems when you think about time and urgency and everything. Is there's something you learn when you're a creative, especially in design. It's crucial, and we call it innovation life cycle. We call it human-centered design. We call it design thinking, and that is iteration.
Yeah.
And the thing I feel is missing a lot, and it's not just now, it's something that, as long as we keep thinking there's no time versus even enough time, the first thing, or one of the first, actually, the first thing that gets sacrificed is any kind of strategy. Let's be honest, right? Any
I'm in
kind
that
of
scenario right now,
validation.
unfortunately. Yes.
I think we've talked about that for 4 years, but a designer must iterate to invent something, to create something that is intended to solve a problem. It must be tested. And that's where things, especially like AI, are extremely helpful, because they actually allow for some iteration. Like we said, bad ideas, mediocre work. It allows for some of that when time is under pressure. So, stop thinking that these things will replace you and they don't make mistakes and everything will be great. It's the opposite. They're just something that allows you to iterate more effectively. It's either going to work or it's not. And if it doesn't, then what the hell are you going to do? Can we just take a little bit of time and allow for a little bit of thinking? And the way I put it is a little time to make mistakes, because you cannot solve a problem without making mistakes. Because if you don't, how do you know it's the right solution?
Yeah. It's just the solution, the first solution that came up. And iteration is the cost of like not having time. Then going with the first solution is going to be what happens. The funny thing I was talking about with someone this morning is that you'll take the time regardless. So you either take the time up front to set it all up properly and to go through your actual process and to make mistakes and to have multiple ideas or multiple rounds of ideas and to refine ideas and to refine the strategy to like get to the right idea. So you're going to take that time up front, or you're going to be forced to take the time later when you're not getting to a creative concept that works, or when you have to do rounds and rounds of iteration because it's not grounded in strategy in the beginning. So like time is a funny thing because you're going to take it either way. It's just, where is it best spent? Is it best spent in setting things up properly and taking the time to iterate to get to great work? Or is it going to be spent later fixing the problem?
And I think there's some kind of sick reward. We all do it, or instant gratification of fixing a problem when the pressure is high versus fixing the problem before it's a problem.
It's so true. You're so right. Like, people want to come in and save the day, to be like, the shit's hit the fan. We got to get in the pressure cooker. We got to do it. It's going to be midnight. It's the weekend. It's what, like, there's some sort of, like you say, sick satisfaction of like being in there and helping to fix it. Whereas when you do it properly in the beginning, it's just responsible, and like responsible isn't sexy.
Yeah, absolutely. As an expert who does what you do and has a process, you're going to take the time regardless. What do you mean?
I mean, when you don't take the time in the beginning to do the right strategy work, and this is in marketing and advertising, which is what we're talking about, or to do the right creative work, or to go through the creative process that we need to go through to get to what we feel is the best work. If you don't take that time in the upfront, you're going to take that time fixing mistakes on the back end. So it's either going to be that you get to the wrong idea and the client can't buy it because they don't see how you got there, which would have been strategy in the beginning. or you put the wrong work in market and it doesn't perform. So you're going to have to take the time later to fix that. So the time is going to be spent at some point. It's just, where is the time best spent? And I think our point of view is that iteration is critical to get to the best work. You can't go with the first draft. You can't go with the first idea. You can't go with your first kind of gut reaction or inclination. You need the time to explore, to make mistakes, and all of that to get to what we think is the best work. So the value of iteration is so high that we feel it's valuable to take the time in the beginning to give yourself the space to iterate.
Unfortunately, we're agreeing again.
We tried to disagree.
Yeah, we do. We'll keep trying. I think me, have learned that you must take the time, because as a small business, or even as someone who works in an agency who has a budget, who has numbers to hit, you are taking risks when you don't allow for imperfection. Mm-hmm. And in all this world where everything does it for you, like AI and automation and all the new softwares that have AI, all of a sudden humans aren't necessary. Not true. What is necessary are humans who know process, who have practice. To me, practice is a big word now. It's my new big thing. Is, there's a million processes and you're going to experience many of them. And process is so key to success when it comes to solving problems. However, what sits above that is what I'm referring to as practice. To say, when you've done something enough times and made enough mistakes to truly learn for yourself the best way to handle just about any situation. That's what you're always trying to do. That's practice. So in your practice, iteration needs to always be there. So to Lindsay's point, it's just something you do because you've learned that what happens when you don't. And when you don't, it's not about, win-lose. It's about everybody loses. If anything, you might make a little more money, and you might, because there's more changes and it requires more time, and that justifies it for a little bit. But then what starts happening is you start putting more time into it, and it's time that isn't informed. No, you got to do it again. Go do one more. That's not iteration. Lindsay, I hate that fail fast. I hate that, because
yeah.
I get where it comes from. It doesn't motivate me, because the intention, you have to almost have some intention to fail, because if you do, you're just going to scrape yourself back up and do it again. That's a great competitive spirit sometimes, but it's also very, what I'd call tactical. If you look at what's the word? Iteration does, is I liken it to like an athlete, right? Like, you have practices between the big games, right? In those practices is where you figure out things you need to do better. And then your practice changes, right? It based on your position, or if you're an individual competitor. That's what you're doing as a creative, but you're exercising a different muscle, what I would call your creative muscle, but really what I call the two most important muscles, which is your brain and your gut. And you're always practicing to understand. And every project, we don't get to have practice. The projects are the practice. But if you don't allow yourself the time to practice, which is iteration, to make mistakes, then you are not improving or raising your performance, right? Because there's an accountability in that. And that's why I like that kind of angle. Often we get this threat of, oh my God, bad things are happening and I don't have time and blah, blah, blah. And the only way you're going to be able to change that is to somehow change that switch to say the only person responsible and accountable for your time, as much as other people pay for it, as much as maybe other people schedule it for you, the only person accountable for how it's used is you.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you. So the first thing, when you get a project coming through and people and the client says to you, like, look, we need to have this done in 2 weeks. And your point of view is that based on the little amount of information that client may have, you need to go through a strategy process or a discovery process to learn. And that process is going to take longer than the client has given you. What do you think the best response or way is to manage with clients those types of requests to help you protect your time? Either freelancers, client service people, even brand people, their boss is saying, like, we need to get something done in 2 weeks. So with the experience that you have, what do you think would be the best defense to maintain your boundaries and protect your time to do things in the way that you think they need to be done?
So the first thing I would do as this is happening, like you said, I believe that if I don't think 2 weeks is enough, that's that idea. That's the gut. That is absolutely the gut. And a lot of times I would suppress it going, but we can do it. I can be a hero. I can be a champion. We can win this. It never ends well. So I think the wisdom is to really pause and say, okay, I don't feel this is right. In my head, I start going, what do I not know? What's the information I don't have or that doesn't seem accurate that's making me feel this way? Now, this all happens in a split second. It takes years. Cognitive behavioral therapy, because I start freaking out.
And it is like an addictive thing to want to come in and save the day, for sure.
Isn't it?
It is.
Get my cake. Get my cake.
Yeah, I'm going to save this day. No.
So the first thing to do, you think, okay, well, we have to do it. No, you don't. You're the expert. So if you have to do it, you need to take a little accountability and say, why doesn't this feel right? What are the things that are missing? And what I've learned is I used to tell them, right? Well, that's impossible or blah, blah, blah. That's not good for business, especially your own. What I've learned is the act of asking questions and asking good questions is an excellent way to engage your audience. So it's that filter.
So when you say audience, that would be the client as the audience?
Yes, the person asking. Good question. Okay. They're not challenging questions. They're questions that kind of say, we both understand that this is kind of ridiculous, right?
We don't have what we need here. Like we both see we don't have what we need here. And if we don't take the time, it won't be successful. So let's do this together and take the time, or not waste what little time we have trying to do it half-assed, to be honest.
Yeah. So does that help?
Yeah.
You would do the same thing.
Yeah, I do. No, I definitely do the same thing. But it is very hard not to internalize other people's pressures. So a client comes to you and says, we have to get this done, and not taking on their pressure is a big challenge for me, because I'm like, okay, we got to get this done. We have to get this done. But my responsibility as a strategist is to do it the right way to get to what I think is the best answer. And so the money that they will spend doing something quickly, I don't think then also would be the best use of their resources.
So you said a very valuable word there, service. And the thing you have to recognize if you choose to do what it is we do, right, using our creative thinking to help businesses when it comes to marketing of some sort, you accept, or you should accept, that it is in service of others. It is you're in a service industry. The difference, though, and that's how you start, right? So I equate it to serving tables, serving people in an establishment like a restaurant. You start by learning how to serve them the food, right? That's your job. Serve them the bill, serve them whatever they ask for. What starts to happen is either you hate it, it's time to move. Tips are great, but I can't do this anymore. Or you still love it, but you're not getting any, okay, what can I do beyond giving them what they ask for? Give them what they don't even know they need. Right?
So you move beyond being an order taker to an advisor or facilitator of an experience, really.
Exactly. So it's like the value associated with just giving your customer what they ask for hits a wall very quickly, because as soon as someone does a little more, you may lose that wonderful client or that wonderful
Yeah.
customer. But it has to come from inside, is you have elevated what you serve. You want to serve an experience they'll remember.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And guess what? You also get great tips and you get repeat visits, but that's not the driver. I mean, it's part of the cycle. But when you recognize that you have something to offer merely by the fact that you just enjoy offering it, but you start to feel a little bit stuck, it's because you're not iterating. You're not trying to improve on every experience.
Yeah.
Service is the key. You are in service of others. And that's what defines us as we are experts. And to serve them, you and I, and a lot of people like us, want to improve their business. We want to help them make an impact in ways they aren't capable of doing. I remember someone said that. You're hired to do something that they know they can't do.
And I think that's where, if you feel that you need to do certain steps to deliver it in the best way, that's where you need to be the one championing the level of service that you provide. And if I just go and say, no problem, we're going to do it quickly in a week and here you go, I know that that's not championing the quality and the service and the experience that I want my clients to have. So although in the moment, it can be tough in the moment, but long term, it really is the best thing to do, to champion the time that you need to iterate and to get to the best work you can.
Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. But now, after 35 freaking years of doing it a little bit right and a lot wrong,
of iteration.
Yeah, a lot. And it'll never stop, because you learn to love iteration, because it makes the work you do more informed. It makes you more informed, and it heightens the creative abilities and ways of thinking you already have. And how you do that is by continuously making little mistakes through iteration and allowing for them and embracing them.
I think that's a perfect end to this episode.
I love it.
Iteration, iteration, iteration. It will lead to less of a creativity crisis when you give yourself the time to do what you need to do.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Sean. Great episode. Thank you.
Bye, Marketeers.
Thanks for listening to the Two Marketeers podcast. New episodes launch every 2 weeks.
Find the Two Marketeers podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you like to listen. And be sure to rate and subscribe.
Listen on our website, thetwomarketeers.ca, or you can ask Alexa to play the Two Marketeers podcast.
Want to keep in touch? Follow the Two Marketeers on LinkedIn or at Two Marketeers on TikTok. We've always got something to share.
This podcast is over.